Welcome to Practice Playbook, your go-to podcast for mastering the art of practice management as a financial advisor. I'm Brandon Chapman, an independent financial advisor based in Vancouver, BC, and the founder of AdvisorFlow. Each episode of this podcast is adapted from a live webinar and distilled into a quick, actionable format to help you grow your practice with clarity and purpose. Today, we're discussing the importance of digital presence as a first impression, featuring Emily Reed, co-founder of Hey Advisor, and Chris Brittain, founder of SagePath Consulting. Together, we'll break down the strategies for building trust, creating value, and successfully growing an advisory practice in the digital age. Let's dive in.
Our mission, to boil it all down into a clear roadmap. How do you build that digital trust and, actually turn clicks into clients?
Yeah, and the big message from those sources is, well, pretty stark. Your online presence, it's working for you, or frankly, against you 24/7. Client expectations have just shifted. They're moving past only traditional networking. They expect what they get everywhere else, right? That slick, easy digital engagement, like an Amazon experience, but for financial advice.
It's not just a theory either. Here's something that really stood out from the material.
But the reality is 98% of all referrals still start with an online search before reaching out, which is why you want to have a strong digital presence to enable prospects to do their homework before they reach out.
And if they search and can't find you, or what they find is lacking,
Then the conversation's basically over before it starts.
exactly, that 98% stat, it almost makes the old ways of prospecting seem, well, quaint. The digital world is really the only place you can genuinely prospect while you sleep.
I want to dig into that time trade-off analogy they used because it was surprisingly vivid.
So today, we're here to figure out why digital. No one's going to close a deal on Facebook, and I don't disagree. But for the most part, no one's going to close a deal on the golf course either. The reality is both of these mediums involve building and nurturing relationships, but one takes about 4.5 hours and can only be had with up to 3 extra people. The other takes 5 minutes and can be extrapolated over as many followers you have on your social media platforms, traffic to your website, and engagement with your Google business profile.
The difference in scale is just
Yeah, it's massive.
it's almost existential for business growth now.
But, okay, does that kind of scale maybe compromise the high-trust relationship that's so crucial in financial services? Are you just trading depth for reach, ending up with, an ocean of lukewarm leads?
A lot of this comes down to what we like to call a meaningful content strategy, where you're selective with the content that you share. You want to emulate content that attracts the clients you want and inadvertently enables the clients you don't want to sort of see themselves out.
That's the really key distinction, isn't it? By building a presence that's really clear about who you are, what you do, who you serve, you create this natural filter.
A filter, how so?
Well, it attracts the right clients, the ones you actually want to work with. And at the same time, it helps the wrong ones, the transactional tire kickers just shopping for the lowest rate. It helps them, as the experts put it, sort of see themselves out.
So the content itself is doing that initial screening.
Precisely. And that means every single piece of content you put out there needs to hit this careful balance, capability and personality.
So when people are first looking for an advisor to partner with, the first thing they often look at is, what is their capability? Do they have the ability to help me achieve my goals? But that's quickly followed by, would I trust this person? Can I be vulnerable? And can I see myself and my family working with them over the long term?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense for the content strategy. So if we're accepting this digital imperative, where do prospects usually bump into us first online? What are those absolute must-have digital table stakes?
The sources were incredibly clear on this hierarchy of first impressions.
Yeah.
It almost always starts with a local search. So usually your Google business profile,
Right.
Then quickly followed by your actual website, and after that, your specific social media channels.
Let's unpack the Google business profile first. They called it a secret weapon for local search, which is interesting. We often obsess over the star rating, right? But the experts said that rating, it's actually secondary.
Yeah, what's really fascinating is the algorithm isn't primarily chasing stars. Over half, like 51% of the reason a profile gets to the top of local search results, it boils down to just two things: accuracy and engagement.
Accuracy and engagement, why those two? What's the signal the algorithm is picking up on there?
It's basically prioritizing reliability and activity. Accuracy means consistency. Like, is your contact info, your hours, your address identical across every single platform?
Every platform.
Or your website, your social profiles, any third-party listings, directories, everywhere. Any inconsistency signals, maybe an unreliable business, and engagement. That means treating the profile like it's, well, dynamic. like a social media account.
So regular posts, updates.
Regular post updates, adding photos, and crucially, responding to reviews, both good and bad.
Okay. And that response part brings us to handling negative feedback, which is bound to happen, right? Especially when an advisor is dealing with market stuff or, carrier decisions they don't control.
Right. And this is where you turn a potential negative into a positive signal for everyone else looking.
And the reality is most consumers would not be swayed by a bad review. All of us recognize that you can't make everyone happy, but what the TSN turning point is how you respond to that as the business owner. So if someone leaves a bad review that, this would never happen in real life, of course, but I met with Brandon to renew my term policy, my premiums tripled, like what a crock, whatever. For you to respond to that and say, you know what, Chris, I'm sorry you had that experience. I'd love the opportunity to chat with you more about how we can find a flexible solution that, meets your needs, is a way to sort of convert that negative review into a positive experience from a consumer perspective. But it also checks that engagement box.
Okay, so they check Google, maybe see that professional response, then they land on your website, your digital storefront, your storyteller. What was the most maybe surprising thing the sources said about website design?
Well, it needs to be professional, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Mobile-friendly, easy to navigate, yes. But the readability tip is the one that often gets missed.
The average reading level for most Canadians is grade 5, so plain language is also important here. It also helps to establish trust with clients.
Wow. That ties right back to that capability versus personality balance, doesn't it? If I'm trying too hard to sound technically superior.
Exactly. You're probably using language that's way too complex for most people.
Mm-hmm.
The focus needs to shift to the client's story, their narrative.
So instead of writing like, I specialize in comprehensive risk management.
Right. You position it around, I help people achieve their financial goals, or I help families secure their legacy. It's moving from talking about features to talking about fulfillment, about outcomes.
Okay, so we've covered the where, the platforms. Let's shift to the what, the actual content that drives that engagement and builds trust.
Hey, are you enjoying the episode so far? If so, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on LinkedIn at Brandon Chapman and let me know what topics you'd like to hear next. And if you're finding this episode valuable, don't forget to leave a review or share it with a colleague who might also enjoy it. Now back to the episode.
The first thing you're going to want to think of is staying educational with your content. Clients want to see clarity. They don't want to feel pitched to. Educational content itself is going to position you as a guide who helps people make better financial decisions instead of a salesperson trying to push a product. You want to be consistent, so it doesn't have to be every day. Once a week is great. It's going to create familiarity. Consistency, it's going to actually build recognition, and recognition builds trust. And then the use visuals part. So Chris touched on this a few times during the presentation. People remember far more what they see than what they read or hear. A chart or a timeline or a quick explainer graphic will stick with someone long after a paragraph of text has been forgotten.
That explains why that specific anecdote they shared was so powerful, the one about the prospect who came in already feeling like they knew the advisor.
Prospects began showing up to meetings referencing the posts. So one even said something along the lines of, I feel like I know you already. I've been learning off your posts for months. So you might not see the results immediately. It's about getting started and then staying the course because it does build over time.
Think about that. The trust was built organically before the advisor spent 1 minute actively selling or even meeting them face to face.
And that trust gets reinforced by showing up consistently, right? There's some psychology behind that, isn't there?
There's a psychological principle called the mere exposure effect, and it means that the more often someone sees something, the more they're going to start to trust it. And that applies to your content. So when clients and prospects see you showing up consistently online, not just once in a while, but regularly, they become more comfortable with your name, your brand, and your message.
And does the data back that up?
Oh, yeah.
Even if you're not posting every day, moderate consistency, once a week, can drive engagement 4 times more than being inconsistent. I think one of the worst things to do is to just get started and post 1 a day for 3 weeks and then disappear. You may as well spread that out over 15 weeks. You'll get more out of the algorithms and everything online.
Now, here's something I want to push back on a bit. The sources really stress that visuals dominate. We retain 80% of what we see versus only 20% of what we read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And video specifically gets 5 times more engagement than just text. But doesn't that put a ton of pressure on advisors? Do they need expensive, super polished videos now?
At one point in time, in order to sort of be on, put yourself out there as a professional, the expectation is production value is really high. But because of technology advances with, phones, GoPros, and other recording devices, the public's expectation of video quality has really dropped. And candid, low-tech, authentic content can perform just as well, if not better, than high production, high-value content.
Yeah, people spend hours watching low production, really authentic stuff on TikTok, on Instagram Reels. And just a quick note here on compliance, all this educational content.
But the good news is that educational content is naturally compliant as long as you're keeping it focused on general information and you're not making personal recommendations. So instead of telling people what to do, explain what it is and why it exists. An example would be, what is key person insurance and who does it benefit? You're not pushing products, you're just showing concepts of who it helps and what it is. Other things to kind of remember when you're doing it is to keep your tone neutral, avoid performance claims. We all know that one. And focus on helping your audience understand. Think of it as like a conversation sparker. Those are content that are educational, it's compliant, and it's going to be valuable to your audience.
Okay, so we have the platforms, we have the content strategy, education, consistency, visuals, authenticity. How do financial professionals actually weave all this into an already packed workflow?
I like to break it down into a weekly habit. So the first thing you're going to do is start small. You're going to pick a theme. I like to say pick a theme per month. It could be seasonal, like RSP deadlines, or something niche like budgeting for young families or strategies for business owners. Having a theme is going to help you keep your message focused and it's going to be easier to execute. Then once you've got the theme, you're going to choose a content piece for that week that will fit that best. So this could be, again, we're trying to do visual, so an infographic or a video. And then the key is consistency. So using scheduling tools. So I know with SagePath, Hootsuite's a great one to use. You can also use like the social or the scheduler within LinkedIn, within Facebook. The goal here is focus once a week, set it and forget it. Don't scramble through the week. Don't put it there so that you don't get to it. You want to just sit down and get it done. And then once you're consistent with this process, you can actually move this strategy meeting to once a month and kind of look at your content plan for the month, schedule it, and go from there.
Got it. Okay, so we have the platforms, we have the content strategy, education, consistency, visuals, authenticity. How do financial professionals actually weave all this into an already packed workflow? It's hard to conduct when you're buried in admin. That takes away time from those really important high-value conversations with clients.
Which is where the tech stack comes back in, presumably. Finding tools that actually help.
Precisely. And this is where something like AdvisorFlow fits in perfectly. It's about streamlining, integrating things. Think about compliance, like KYC, know your client rules. Updating that info is mandatory.
And often a real pain for the client, filling out forms they've probably filled out before.
Exactly. So AdvisorFlow lets you build branded data collection templates for KYC, maybe budget updates, net worth statements right into your emails.
Oh, okay. So the client gets an email, clicks a link, updates their info securely, and it's done.
Pretty much. Seamless for them, compliant for you. And crucially, it saves you, the advisor, a ton of time chasing that information.
Right. It turns a compliance headache into just part of the workflow. And that's saved time. That's gold.
That's the time you can reinvest into creating that consistent content we talked about, or actually following up properly with the leads your digital funnel is generating. It connects everything. And if advisors get this right, they balance capability and personality, they're consistent, they integrate the tech well. What's the actual payoff? Is it measurable?
The data suggests it really is.
73% of advisors who are leveraging social media for client engagement and prospecting are outperforming their colleagues. And I'd argue that the 27% who aren't probably just haven't seen this presentation or talked to Emily or myself. But a strong digital presence builds trust and authority, especially in a field like financial services.
Which brings us to what feels like the crucial mindset shift needed here. It's not about looking at the cost of doing this or even the immediate ROI necessarily.
No, you have to look at the unintended cost of not doing it. That's the key. If you're going to build a digital presence, invite followers, try to engage.
Yeah.
You absolutely cannot invite them to a blank page or, somewhere where you haven't posted something in 6 months or a year.
Right. That damages credibility instantly. Okay, so let's try and summarize this deep dive then. Your digital footprint. It's essentially your primary reputation builder now. It allows trust to form before you even shake a prospect's hand. And it effectively screens prospects, making sure you connect with the right people.
And what that all boils down to really is capacity. When you automate the top of your sales funnel with consistent, valuable content, you are dramatically increasing your capacity and your reach
Yeah.
in ways that old school, time-intensive networking just can't touch. You shift from constantly chasing clients to responding to qualified people reaching out to you.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener. What existing client opportunities or future referrals might you be missing out on simply by not showing up consistently where prospects are already spending, 2.5 hours every single day?
That's the real cost of inaction.
Definitely something to think about. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Thanks for tuning in to Practice Playbook. If today's episode was helpful, be sure to subscribe so you'll never miss an update. For more tips and insights, be sure to follow AdvisorFlow on social media and stay tuned for upcoming episodes featuring expert speakers and practical advice to elevate your practice. Until next time, keep striving for excellence and building a practice that reflects your goals.